Welcome back to the channel, and we're going to finally conclude making this part. Now we're going to do this using Inventor, and we're going to also be creating this as an assembly. The same things that we did when we did the 3D AutoCAD is making each one of these parts separately is going to apply. But when we're using Inventor, we have to create two separate different part files, and then we're going to put them together. Also, this is going to be kind of an introduction to doing some basic constraining. So if you're new to Inventor, this is what's going to help you out a lot. It's just some beginning constraints. I'm also going to throw in one other little neat thing here, which is called drive constraints. And it's just going to show you just a little movement of how the part would actually interact. So if any of those things that you're interested in, please go ahead and stick around and continue. And if you know anyone that likes this kind of content, please feel free to share it with it. And thank you for all the people that are subscribing and watching these videos. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and open a new file here. I'm just going to start with the new icon button here. This dialog box should appear. We're going to select the one that says standard millimeter IPT. And if you want to know what the IPT is, that's just Inventor part. So it's kind of abbreviated. But we're going to be using a millimeter template. Go ahead and hit the create button. We're going to give Inventor a couple of seconds to go ahead and load up for us. And, you know, some of the typical stuff that it's going to do is the ribbon at the top is going to change. And then you should get your browser here on the side. All right. Looks like it's all ready for us to go. Let's select this icon here. And that's going to start my new sketch. And then I'm going to select the XY plane, right? So this is the plane that I'm going to create my part on, just because I like it to lay down. I also like the words here, top, to be reading correctly. So I'm just going to flip it with this little button here, and then we have it flip the right orientation. I'll start off by creating a circle, and I'll click here, and then I'll just kind of give that circle a little preview of how big I want it. Now I do actually know the radius, and you can see that Inventor right now is asking me for a radius. One way to verify that is if you do a right click, and if it says diameter here, that means it's automatically asking you for a radius. If I select the word diameter, you're going to see that dotted line go right across my circle. If I right click on it again and go back to radius, now it's asking me for a radius. So I'll go ahead and type in 20. And then we're going to come zoom into this. And then let's go ahead and create our other circles, right? We have two on the outside here that's sitting at 10. So I'll go ahead and place a circle here, type in 10 here, and do the same over here. All right, so now we have our three circles. I want to make sure all of these are in line with each other. So I'm going to first take a look at the horizontal. And I can kind of see a little preview of those dotted lines going across. So long as those dotted lines are going across in the horizontal. If yours are going vertically, then that means you have to pick the vertical constraint, right? And I hope that makes sense. Sometimes it works a little bit backwards. But those dotted lines are what's telling you what is going to happen. So this is horizontal. I'll go ahead and select this center point to this center point. And then I'll do the same on the other side. So I'll select this center point to that center point. All right, let's escape out of that and put some basic dimensions that separate each one of these. So I'll go to the dimension. I'll click this center point to this one and give it a distance of 30. I'll do the same on this side, right? So this center point to here. And this one has a distance of this number, so I'll select here. And then I'll just use some multiplication times 2, right? So that way, if that number ever changes, they all change together. That's just kind of one of the things I like to do to my drawings. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw 4 lines, right? So I'll create like a big diamond around all of this stuff. I'm trying not to intersect with any of my circles. Sometimes that just might happen, but here we go. All right, so I have this. Let's go ahead and put some tangents on this. So tangent. And I'll just work my way around this, right? So tangenting these lines around my circles. And see, sometimes you might get something that'll happen like that, right? Which is totally okay. Let me go ahead and undo that. So all I did was escape out of the command and undo. And when it does that, I'm going to left click and hold this dot and just kind of move it down. And then I'll come back to my tangent and then start finishing what I started with, right? So do my tangent here and then my tangent here. Let's go ahead and trim the rest of this off so we don't need these lines going around. Also here on the inside. Just kind of making sure I clean all of this up the way it should be. Okay. And I've seen that some of my lines came undone. It's mainly because it lost its radius on this one. Let's go ahead and place that dimension back. So that has a radius of 20. And then these two circles are concentric to each other. So I'll just use the concentric coincidence or constraint actually. So I'll select that one, this circle, and that circle. Oh, and it looks like it already has that. Okay. I'm trying not to, make those the same or put those dimensions on there. So if the coincidence didn't work, I'll use the equal one next, and I'll set this one equal to that one. Okay. So now everything is done. I'm happy with it. I'll go ahead and finish this sketch. And then I have to decide what height am I going to give it in which direction, right? So I'll go ahead and choose extrude. It should automatically pick this profile for me, and then it should automatically set a height. It just so happened that 10 is the default, and when I zoom out a little bit, you will see that. So there's my 10. Go ahead and hit OK. Let's go ahead and place our other circles here on the top. So I'll select this top surface. I'll choose this icon here. Once again, I'll do my little rotation thing, just a little OCD thing of me. Now I want to bring in these center marks, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll choose project geometry, and I'm just going to select that arc, this arc, and this one. Let's escape out of this. And then I'll go ahead and put those circles on the inside, right? These are going to be diameter circles. So I'll select this circle, go to this center, kind of give me a preview, do the right click, choose diameter, and then type in 31.3. Go back. So it's still asking me to create my next circle. I'll click here, giving it a diameter. This is 20. Go to this side, click on that center, kind of preview it. This one has a diameter of 15. And then the one on the inside of this one has a diameter of 10. Exact same thing along here on the other side. So click here, diameter 15. Click here, diameter is 10. Alright, so now I have all of my circles created here. Let's go ahead and finish sketch. Choose extrude. Now this time it won't automatically select it, so it's asking me for a profile, which just means that it has many profiles to choose from. I'm going to select on the inside of that one, this one, and then this one. Then I'll give it a height, which is going to be 3. Go ahead and hit OK. And then finally, I'll go ahead and cut some holes through this, right? Since I do have a concentric reference to these, a concentric reference, I don't have to go and put a sketch on these, meaning that I can go right to the hole command, and then I have to tell it what face I want to put it on. So I'll select this face, and then it says give me a concentric reference, which is that cylinder. Then I have to give it whatever the diameter is, and in this case the diameter is 20. Okay, so once I hit enter, I'll go back to the hole command, and let's kind of rotate this down or look at it on the top view. I want to select on the inside of here. I'll give it a concentric reference of that circle, and then I'll give it the diameter, which is going to be 10. One more time, right? So select here. I want to select this face, my concentric reference. I can choose either one of these circles that I want. I'll select that circle there. The diameter is already set to 10, and it's actually going through all. I didn't tell you that on the other previous stuff, but it's actually going through all. So once I hit OK, it should be done. All right, let's go ahead and rotate this around, take a look at it in kind of an isometric view. And now we're done with this part, right? So this is one part that's already done for us. We can go ahead and save this. Click the save icon here. I'm sorry, I clicked open. Click the save icon. And then let's just go ahead and name this the top piece. Top part. And if you got a name for it or a part number, it's probably a good idea to put it here. So this is just top part. I'll go ahead and save this. And once it's done saving, it should automatically keep that name. Now this is really close to what we need our bottom part to be, right? So I'm going to kind of use this same geometry and everything that I did. I'll go ahead and go to File. And then I'll come down to Save As, right? So I want to make a Save As of this one. I'm going to name this one Bottom Part. Oh, let's go ahead and take off the word part. Save. And give it a second. Now this is one of those important things. Make sure that you're reading here at the bottom that it's saying bottom part, not top part, right? So now I don't need those holes. I'm just going to go ahead and start deleting those. And so I just selected one of them and held down the shift button to select them all. Do a right click on that and go ahead and delete them. Yes, I want to delete them. And then we're going to go ahead and take a look at this sketch here. All right. So I'm going to go and expand this one. And I'll go ahead and double click on sketch 2. All of these inside parts. So I'll select that one, hold down the control button and select the other 3 on the inside. And go ahead and tell them that they are construction. Finish this sketch, and I'm expecting this to kind of fill those in, which is what I wanted to do. Now I will double click on this one, on this icon here to bring back open the dialog box, and then I'll give it the height that it needs. Instead of being 3, that number is 20. Alright, and I also have to do one other thing. These are inside numbers. Let's go back and change those. So I'll double click on this icon. And it didn't dawn on me when I did this. I should have actually selected these outside circles, made those construction, and then select the inside ones. And remember, you have to hold down the control button when you do this. And then I'll unmake those construction, right? So that's what I actually wanted to do. Let's go ahead and do that. I was expecting this to happen, so I'll go to that. It's giving me a little warning next to it. I'll just double click here. And it's going to look for what faces I want. Then I'll just reselect the ones on the inside and hit OK. Alright, so this part is now done. So I created the top part and I've also created the bottom part. Relatively quick, right? Let's go ahead and save this one now. And we have both of our parts done. So now we're ready to put this together in an assembly. So this is the part where we have to constrain and put it together to make it fit. So I'll go ahead and select this new icon again. Give it a second here, and then it should be opening up, and this next rows are going to be our assemblies, right? We're going to be using the standard millimeter IAM. Remember the IAM, that's just an assembly. Select that one and create it. All right, once again, we're going to have to give it a couple of minutes. Let AutoCAD, I was about to say AutoCAD, let Inventor go ahead and do its loading thing up. You should see its top up here change, which it does. And once the ribbon is all set to go, we're going to start off with the place. So I'll choose place. Give us a couple of minutes here. And then I have to go to where my examples was. I'm sorry. Oop. Let me cancel out of that. Let me go back to this. I want to place. Everything is underneath the examples. I'm going to choose the bottom part. I'll go to open. And then it should be hovering and following your cursor around. I'm just going to do a right click. Do not left click anywhere. And then I'm just going to place grounded at origin. So this ensures that this part will be right at the origin. And once I created that first one, I'll do a left click and then that part is in. Let's go ahead and place our top part. So go to place. Go ahead and find my top part. Go ahead and hit OK. And I'll go ahead and click that over here. All right. Once I'm done placing it, I'll go ahead and hit escape. So next, I want to put this part on top of these two parts, right? So I'll choose a constraint, which is here. And this is kind of the beginning part of any kind of constraining that you will ever do in Inventor. So choose constraint. And I'll go ahead and choose this axis here. So I'm just selecting on the inside of this circle. And I'll choose this axis. And it should snap together. I'll go ahead and hit OK. And you can see that I'm able to grab this thing and also spin it around. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is go back to constraint. I'm going to choose this axis and this axis. And it should lock those together. Let's go ahead and hit OK on that one. And now you'll see that I'm not able to spin this. The only thing I can do is make this thing go up and down, right? Here's one of those other things where I think other programs do this a lot better, is that they will actually stop. On here, you have to make them into contact sets, right? And let me see, it's been a while since I did contact sets here in a second, but let's see. First, I have to select this one, do a right click, and then I have to tell it that it's part of a contact set. And then I have to go to here, right click, tell it that it's part of a contact set. And then I have to come here, and I'm underneath the Inspect tab, and turn the contact solver on. And now when I come down, it should stop. So right, when I go down to here, it will stop. So that's one way of how you can make your Inventor part stop, and you can kind of check it, right? So when it comes all the way down and I slam it here, if I look at this from the front, let's see, will it go down? And that's about as far, and it's trying to stop where it needs to. Keep in mind that there is no tolerance in between this, so it's kind of taking a look at all of these little friction points in, but you see that it did stop it. Okay, let's move this back up. Let's say we want to be a little bit more accurate with this, right? We want to go ahead and put a distance between this. I'm going to take a look at this kind of from the downside here. Let's go back to the Assemble tab. Choose Constraint. This time I'll select this face here. I'll rotate to the bottom, and I'll select this face. And then I'm going to give it a distance in between it. So we're going to set it at 20. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Alright, so now we have this relationship between these two. We have a distance here. If I select this, and I do a right click on it, right? And I can do this on either one of these parts. I can do it on the top or the bottom, but I'm going to find that one that I just did with the distance. Do a right click on it, and then I'll select the word drive. So now you see I can drive it. It's starting at 20, and tell me that I want to probably end it at, let's make it 0. And then when I hit the play button, you're going to see that it comes down, right? If I hit the play button again, you'll see where it goes up. So that's kind of one of those ways that if you want to take a look and see how something is actually behaving or interacting, that's kind of one of the things you can do, is drive the constraints. Now, also, if I drive the constraint and I leave it down to here and I hit OK, it's going to set that mate equal to 0, right? So just remember that number now is 0. So whatever you leave it as, that's what it's going to keep it as. I just highlighted that one and went back and made it 20. All right. So now that the assembly is done, we're happy with that. Let's go ahead and save this. And just kind of thinking in my mind what I want to save it as, and it's just a some kind of clamp. Let's just call it a clamp for our sake here. Go ahead and hit OK. Oh, look like we already have a clamp in there. Let's call it a clamp -1. Trying to look in here, and I don't think I have one that's called a clamp. Oh, let's go and put it in the example. And call it clamp. Oh, and once again, I've seen that I hit the wrong button again. I'm sorry, I meant to go to save. That's why I was wondering why it wasn't acting right. There we go. So I'll just go ahead and call it clamp. Hit the save button, and this one is done, right? So now we're ready to kind of switch over to the drafting phase of this, right? Or the drawing phase. Let's go ahead and hit the new icon again. We're not going to deal with the presentation file that's here at the bottom. So we're going to take a look at the ANSI millimeter, the IDW one. And let's go ahead and create that one. Like we did before, let's go ahead and give Inventor a couple of seconds for it to load up and change the ribbon. And we should see that here in a second. Okay, so once it opens up, you can see that it's already in a D size format. Let's go ahead and get rid of some of this stuff. So I'm just going to right click on this ANSI large here and delete that title block. And then I'll right click on the sheet. And then I'll go to edit sheet. And then this is where I can decide what size sheet I want to do, right? So if we're kind of going and sticking with our metric theme on these, I can choose an A3. And you can see that it puts in the dimensions that I need. And then I'll go ahead and hit OK. And so now this is set up in an A3 format. And then remember that this is closely resembling a B-size drawing, right? Another thing that I have to do is that if I want to change the angle projection, and your ribbon probably looks like this, we have to go to Manage, Style Editor, and we're going to give it a little second because it's got to load up all of the styles and things of that nature that Inventor has. But here in a second, this dialog box should appear. And when it does, I'm going to select underneath the Standard tab here and choose Standard. And then I'll go to View Preferences. And this is where I can decide between a third angle projection and a first angle projection, right? So I'll choose the first angle projection since we are doing this one in our metric theme. Let's go ahead and hit Save and Close. And now we're ready to start creating some of the drawings and things of that nature in here, right? So I'll go ahead and create my front view. Let's go back to Place Views. I'll choose the Base option. And I want to take a look at this from the top view, right? So I'll just go ahead and switch it down this way. Let's go ahead and get it in position. And kind of drag this out a little bit to see how big we can make it. All right. So a 2:1 looks like it should be fine for what we need. Let's go ahead and select here. I'll go ahead and create the top view here. And then I'll create the isometric up here in the corner. And it's going to do something weird here, but I'll go ahead and fix this here in a second. Let's do a right click and hit OK. All right, so remember that it does do it a little bit backwards. Let's go ahead and delete this view. And then I'll select this view and then choose Project. And then bring that isometric right down here. Do a right click and tell it to create. And then it will create your isometric, right? Let's go ahead and pull this down a little bit. Then we're going to do our section view. Our section is located here. I'll select the view. I'll touch this center and track over to this direction. Do a left click, go straight across. One more left click here. Do a right click and then hit continue. And then I have to tell it where I want to put this view at. So I'm just going to drag it right above it here and place it. Let's do an escape. And now I need to move this. So you remember that it's locked to this view. So if I select the border of this, do a right click on it, and I'm looking for the word alignment. And then I want to tell it to break it. So once I tell it to break it, then I have the freedom now to move this wherever I want it. Okay, so this is kind of some basic stuff to this one. Let's go ahead and shrink this down a little bit. So I'll double click on that view. And let's see, that's 2:1. Let's go ahead and make it 3. Oh, I'm going the wrong direction. Let me double click that again. Let's go with 1:1. We'll make it half as small. Yeah, that'll be fine for what we need for this drawing. I can probably make it 1.5, and that'll make it a little bit better for us. And remember with isometrics, they don't have to be any kind of exact scale or things of that nature. What I'm just trying to do here is get these two in line with as close as I can. I can also select this one and tell it to alignment horizontal with this view. And then what that does is it keeps both of these now in line with each other. Okay, so we have this one. We can go ahead and put some basic dimensions on here. So de-enter. Let's go ahead and place these dimensions on. So we have a radius dimension here. And what I like to do is I don't tend to worry about fixing these dimensions here in the beginning. I'll go ahead and just start, doing all of my work first. And then I'll fix the dimension style, a little bit later as I create all of this stuff. So I'll go ahead and place all of my dimensions. Let me jump over to the annotative tab here. Go ahead and put some center lines on here. So I want to go from here. And I was thinking that I can get to that center there, but I can't, so I'll go ahead and use the bisecting ones. The bisecting ones are good. Sometimes they're a little bit better, but I have to manually kind of extend these lines out. So it takes a little bit of my control away. Right, and like I said, I'm not going to load this thing up with too many dimensions. Because one other thing I wanted to show you is how you could select the other drawings on this one. So if I'm making a drawing of this, and usually on this page here would be kind of my rough overall dimensions. And so that's kind of more or less what I'm doing here. Just kind of giving you some overall dimensions just so you can kind of create them. Okay. All right, and that's more than enough dimensions that I need on here. Yeah, I would put some, maybe a dimension from here to here or some of that nature, right? Okay, so this would all be what I need to do on the first sheet. Let's go ahead and create a new sheet, right? I can do a right click on here, and then I can tell it, oh, sorry, I told it edit sheet. Let's go back to place view, and then go to new sheet. And then on this one, maybe I want to make a detail of just the top plate. So I'll go to base. And instead of it selecting what's already open here, and that's one of the benefits of leaving things open, it'll be in your drop down. But remember that our top plate, we made a copy of it. So I'll select the icon here and tell it to open the existing. It should bring me open a dialog box. Let's go ahead and jump in here and let's take a look at our top plate. Go ahead and hit OK. We want to place that one here. Just going to stretch that out to 2 as well. Then I'll hit OK. And then I can do my projections off of this, right? So I can project, and remember, once again, this is doing a first angle projection. So I have this view now. And maybe on this other side I want to put the bottom view. So I'll go to base. Now bottom view happens to still be open here at the bottom. Remember that I can select it out of this list if it's open. Select the bottom view one. Go ahead and place it over here. Stretch it out to 2. Let's go ahead and take a look at this on the top view. Just so everything stays consistent. So I'll do that. Then I'll also go ahead and place the one above it. Then just hit OK. Alright. So that way you can kind of, do your details or however you want to do these. And once again, if you want to keep everything all in line with each other, I can select this one, do a right click and choose alignment and tell it to be horizontal with this one. These are automatically vertically aligned, and if I want to keep these bottom plates, basically in line with each other, that's all I'm doing. So I'll do a right click on this one and go to alignment as well. And it looks like it won't give me the horizontal on that one. Let's see if I can pull it off on this one. Nope. Okay. And I think that's about all I can do as far as alignments on it. But anyway, you kind of see what I've done here, right? So I can go through and put dimensions on these and make them individuals and, create a parts list and things of that nature. And yes, this does have parts lists, kind of like what we did in AutoCAD, is that we can label stuff with balloons, right? So I can tell it here, and it's asking me right now, I don't have any of my parts list created, but I can go ahead and label these as so. Let's go ahead and move this up a little bit, just so you see that I can put a parts list on here, and it should be a fairly small parts list. Go ahead and select a view, should be that one. Okay, and so that's my parts list, right? Just kind of depending on what you want to do, and you can also fill this stuff out. Now here's my quick kind of tip for you, that if you are going to create a parts list, especially on a drawing that's already completed, say you didn't name this stuff right or do any of that, and I wanted to basically put a description or something of that nature, you can actually go back in and open these. So if I went to this one that's already open. Let's go ahead and click on that one. Giving it a second. I do apologize. My computer seems to be running a little bit slower than normal today. But I can come back to it. I can highlight this, do a right click on it, and then come to properties. And this is where all that stuff is housed at, right? So if I go to the description and I just put in, let's just call it AAA, hit apply and then close. I'll do a quick save on this, so I'll do a save. Give it a second, and then when I go back to my drawing, I'm expecting that to have AAA underneath it. And you see that it does. But another quicker method of doing that is if I come to where it says, let's see, the annotation one, and I'm looking for my parts list, is to just kind of, if you come to this bill of material and do a right click, and then you choose the word bill of material, this actually opens up all of that metadata that's in each of the part. So that AAA that's in the description, I can actually change that. And that's kind of what I'm going to show you here when this appears. So you see that it says a description of AAA, right? Let's go ahead and make this like let's call it ABB, right? And if I hit done, it's going to change it here. Oh, let me see. Maybe I got out of that too early. Let's do a right click on it and go back to bill of materials. Should bring it up. Come to here. And then type in ABB. Okay. Alright. So that has the ABB on it. Let's do a quick save on this. And it's actually saving my drawing file. And this is fine for it to be saved as clamp. Right now, when it goes to this save, it's asking me that I made a change to this bottom. Do I want to change it? Sure. Yes to all. Once I hit the OK button, it will change it. Now what I'll do next is go back to where it says this bottom part. And I know this is kind of slowing down and it's not keeping up with me. I'm waiting on this to change from this IDW to the drawing file, or to the part file. There we go. Do a right click on this, go to properties, and inside of here you should see now that changes, right? So sometimes it's a lot quicker, especially if you have a drawing that has a whole bunch of parts to it. It's so much simpler if I fix it here as opposed to opening up each one of those and going to find those, right? So that's kind of my little pro tip there for you, that if any of you are just getting into doing Inventor or something along that nature, right? But anyway, I'm not going to kind of hold you up or tie you up too much longer. Oh, I will do one other thing here. I'll go ahead and fix these dimensions just because I'm staring at them. Let's go to Manage, and we'll go back to the Style Editor, and I'll tell you this, forgive me for this is going to take a little bit longer to open this up. And it seems like it's going longer and longer. But once this appears, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the dimensions. And it should be this one where it says the default one. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and suppress those trailing zeros. So right, it says display, so we're going to turn that off. And now we're just going to have nice whole numbers there. Underneath the alternate units, we don't have any really set up on this drawing here. The display. So this is going to tell me how I want my dimensions to look. If I wanted to change the arrowheads or something along that line. All of this should be fine. Underneath the text, so once again, this is one that I am going to change. I want my linear dimensions to look like this. My angular dimension, I want to keep everything nice and horizontal. And then my vertical dimensions, I'm going to keep those horizontal. Underneath the tolerancing, everything else should be fine. And I can just go through there and check them, but I already know that everything will be fine here. If I hit the save and close, you're going to see all of these numbers should automatically change, right? Okay, so kind of key takeaway here is that you can see that anytime you're using Inventor, it's a lot easier to do things. And this is one of those things that I wanted to tell you about, is that say I went to this one, and we're going to go ahead and adjust the height of this, right? Underneath that drive constraint, so I'll select here and go to drive constraint. Instead of making it start at 20, and then we'll make it end at, let's call it 10. Let's go ahead and drive that constraint so you can see that it did drop down. All right, and then we'll do a save on this. And once we go to the IDW, it should get ready to update here in a second, and you should see that actually pops down, and you're seeing that happens in all other views. So huge benefit of doing stuff of this nature in here is that we can create that. Now, in some of the later Inventor videos that I will give you, I will also show you how you could save some of these views. So you can have multiple views saved, so to say. So I can have this saved at different increments or different heights, and then I can display those in my drawing depending on what I want to do. So if that's something that you're interested in or seeing more of these Inventor videos, please let me know. I really don't know if anybody's that much interested in it, but I surely would love to show you. It's a whole lot of cool things in this program that I just can't do in AutoCAD, but here it makes it a lot easier, or it would take me a lot of time to do it in AutoCAD. All right, enough of me rambling on. So thank you guys for subscribing and looking at these videos. It's like I always say, it's really encouraging me. Thank you for keep coming back and watching these, right? I really do appreciate it. And until the next video.